This video is going to go over the three-way intersection of Alderman and Treehouse, and the next video is going to focus on the four-way intersection of Alderman and McCormick. Now, as you can see from just the amount of saves we've had to make and the tools we're using, this deliverable is pretty complicated, and I'm sorry to say, but that is not stopping here. So we're almost at the home stretch. We have two intersections to make, and then a couple of wrap-up things to do with surfaces. That's much easier than the intersections. I would like to just start off by saying the intersections are, we'll be using the inbuilt intersection tool in Civil 3D, and this is like probably the worst thing to use ever, so just know that going in. It is not the most intuitive to use, nor does it work the best in terms of all of the automatic creation it does. It's not something that they've developed super extensively, to my knowledge, compared to something like assemblies or alignments. A lot of professionals don't actually even opt to use the intersection tool. If you recall us talking about all of the links and points on assembly, like these points and how Civil 3D will join up, it'll create multiple sections and then join those sections with lines that go through similar points. It's actually possible to assign those lines yourself. So what a lot of people will do, like professionally, is like actually come and create a polyline, and they'll actually specify their own. The roadway is here, and the arc looks like this. Oh, that is huge. But like, they'll actually draw these lines themselves. For example, that looks really bad, but you understand what I'm saying. So like they'll specify this themselves. They'll specify, their own road markings. So like, this is like the dash line, and like the sidewalk is here. Like they'll do all of this themselves, and then oh, the sidewalk juts out like this. Like they'll actually go through and design all of these things using like line work by hand, and then assign those to their assemblies and corridors. So things work that way. And that's a great way of getting exactly what you want, but it requires, really good control over Civil 3D and also very extensive knowledge on roadway and intersection design, which, obviously we don't have, and that's totally okay. So for this tutorial and the next video as well, we'll use the intersection tool. Try your best to follow along with exactly what I'm doing, and just know that this is the part of the assignment that the graders will be most lenient on. So if things don't, look exactly right, that's okay. I would recommend documenting anything that maybe went wrong and either including that in like a submission comment or as a PDF, something like that. So we can, kind of at least understand your process and make sure if you executed the right steps. So to start with the actual modeling, sorry that I talk a lot, I'm going to start by pulling back the existing corridor a couple more feet, give myself some space for the intersection. And we can always drag these back, and we definitely will. So I recommend dragging them out towards the further side. To create an intersection, you need to make sure that your alignments overlap. So for here, we have two alignments that overlap, and then here we have two alignments that overlap. From here, I'm just going to hit escape. I'm going to select the intersection tool and create an intersection. Now, you can also create a roundabout in Civil 3D, and this is something that I've done before. If any of you really want to know how to do this, let me know and I can make a video for it. But we will just be creating regular intersections for this video. So you need to select an intersection point. So again, that needs to be where it's overlapping. I'm going to select that intersection, and now you can see a new prompt shows up, which is asking for a main road alignment. I'm just going to click enter, and it pretty much asks me to pick between Treehouse Drive and Alderman Road, which one is the main road. And this is really just important for the intersection geometry. The main road is the one that it's going to prioritize when keeping the like super elevation of the roadway is the same. So we're going to select Alderman Road and click OK. And now you can see this intersection wizard pops up. So the main road you can see here has the primary road crown maintained. If you recall, I talked about how all roads actually have a slope to them, and the top is called a crown, and that's for water flow. What the primary road crown maintained does is it allows whatever road is your major road, so that's the one normally with more traffic and higher speed limits, to keep that crown maintained, while the secondary road has to like go over it. So that's a helpful distinction. There's also all crowns maintained, and we'll be using that for the next intersection. I'm going to call this intersection Alderman Treehouse. That's those are the two roads we're dealing with. And I'm just going to keep everything else here the same. I'm going to hit next. Now, this is where the bulk of the geometry can be decided here. So from here, we can choose the priority road, Alderman, but you can change it if you want to. And now we're going to go into offsets and curb returns. So curb returns are basically how you make all of your turning lanes and also your turning lanes. So those include lanes that you're approaching, so approaching turning lanes, and also like exiting turning lanes. So we are going to first start with the offset parameters. This defines the width of our intersection. So we're going to click on that. And here, if you remember correctly, our Alderman Road lane width is 13 feet long, or wide, sorry. So we're going to change that here. So Alderman is our primary road. You can see that if I highlight it. It's also labeled here. I'm going to change it to 13 feet because that is how wide our lane width is. And you can see that here. And for the secondary road, our lane width is 10 feet. So I'm going to change that there. All right. Now from here, I'm going to hit OK. The curb return parameters specifies turning lanes. We don't have any turning lanes here, right? We have one through road and one through road for Alderman, and then we have just the 20-foot wide Treehouse Drive here. So we don't need to, you can see the options here are to widen for incoming road or widen for outgoing road. We don't need to do either. So we don't need to do anything for curb return parameters. Next, we can look at the lane slope parameters. This just goes over all of those slopes. Just leave them all the same way that they are. And you can do the same thing for all the curb returns. But again, we don't have any, so we don't need to do anything there. From here, we're going to click Next, and this has all of our corridor properties. The first thing we're going to do is add this intersection to the existing corridor model instead of a new model. That way, everything is stored as one object. So I'm going to unselect I'm going to keep this selected, but instead of creating a new corridor, I'm going to add it to our existing road corridor. Same as all of our assembly properties, you need to select a daylighting surface. You should only have one surface, but just make sure it's correct. Next, we can assign all of the actual assemblies to apply to our roadway. So there's a couple things that we can do here right off the bat. The first thing we can do is take our secondary road full section. So our secondary road is going to be Treehouse Drive. You can see these arrows here as well. And we're going to change that from secondary road full to Treehouse Drive. All of these other assemblies are built into Civil 3D, and Civil 3D will create them automatically for us, which is great. The other thing I can do is delete the secondary half sections. We just don't need any of these. You can see where they are. I don't think we need these. So I am just going to delete them. We might have to do this afterwards. We can also change the primary full section to be the sidewalk road. We're going to delete those afterwards, I think. Sidewalk road, the primary road through pavement, though, this is the actual intersection part. This is where we need that right sidewalk because the left side of the road is obviously where it connects to Treehouse Drive, but the right side, we're not modeling that road that goes down towards Kilmer. So we're going to put a sidewalk there. All right, so your sections still look similar to mine. We're going to have to update these after the fact, most likely, because these won't match up exactly with what we need. Now we're going to create the intersection. And it's going to take a little bit to process, especially if you're on a slower laptop. Highly recommend being plugged into a wall for this. You can see that it's created. We have some out-of-date assemblies. You can just see some basic line work here. We're going to go to the intersections tab and see if we can update this region and rebuild the corridor. And now you can see the actual assembly and corridor be populated. This is great. Looking at it, the first thing I'm going to do is open it in the model viewer and see what we're looking at. So just looking at a couple of problems here. Well, for one, it doesn't look like I assigned the right assemblies or they didn't get assigned properly. There's no sidewalk here, and I wanted there to be a sidewalk there, so that's a problem. The curb here looks really good, though. It looks like they match up almost perfectly, but not quite. So let's see if we can do anything about that. If not, that's totally okay. And then, yeah, but the roadways seem to really be lining up, and you can see that we do have at least a functional intersection. So now let's go through and really refine this. So the first thing to do and the easiest thing to do is to line up the ends of the intersections with the ends of the corridor. So you can see all of the diamond, those are different pull grips we can use to line things together. So that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to bring the roadway all the way to where our intersection starts on Treehouse Drive. That looks good to me. Let me do the same thing here and make sure they don't overlap. It's a little bit hard to tell, what the intersection is versus what the corridor is, but you can play around with it a little bit and kind of try to guess, honestly, by pulling things away. So, for example, if I select this, you can see it's highlighting the line here. That makes me think this is part of the intersection, which means this maybe can align, and really just trying to get things to not overlap a bunch. So I'm actually just gonna pull some of these things away to see if I can figure out what is what. And I'm not too sure. This might be the actual corridor itself. Yep. So I need to make these match up. So I'm gonna drag this to the end over here, maybe. And then drag this to join up. If it's gonna let me. Okay, that's this arm figured out. And I'm gonna do a similar thing for this arm. Just make sure that nothing is overlapping a bunch. So you can see I pulled that up, but it didn't make the retaining wall section go away, which means that is not my retaining wall pull. This might be the retaining wall one. Let's see, it is. So I'm going to go back. You can see it was just a bit of a trial and error process to figure this out. Kind of see what matches up. And now I want them to match up here. So pull the diamonds together. Now it looks good. Now, you can see here this is a pretty jarring transition between our roadway section and the retaining wall section. That's okay. know that there are ways in Civil 3D to smooth these out and make these like continuous sections that you would need in an actual design project. It is honestly really, really complicated, and I don't think it's worth going over. I also don't know how to do it. So we'll leave that for future learning on your end. But know that for now, this is pretty sufficient and does a good enough job modeling to our purposes. The next thing I want to fix are these assemblies that the intersection is using. If you remember me saying any of those kind of assemblies that were on that intersection creation screen that we didn't make, Civil 3D makes for us. So we can actually find those in the program. Mine always originates in the top right corner here, so I can see them here. I'm going to take them and move them inside of my assemblies box over here. My box is maybe a little bit too big, but that's okay. And you can see all of the sections that it creates for us. We can also change the properties of these sections, which we're going to do now, to make sure they match up with the sections we made. So, for example, we know our primary road width, I believe this should be 13 feet, right? Not 12. I'm going to change those. I don't think we're even going to be using these sections, but I can update them anyways, in case we need them. This is our secondary road half section, so that should be a 10-foot width, I believe. Same with this one. And for the curb returns, we know that we actually specified a different width for them. So let me come here and figure out what width that was. Looks like it was just 1 foot, and this is definitely more than that. That's why we didn't see them aligning correctly here. So I'm gonna come out here and actually change it to be 1 foot, 1 foot as well. If I can, this is a different section, so I might actually just change it to be the same section that we're using. So I'm going to open up the subassembly property again. I'm going to find my basic curb and gutter, and I'm going to replace this section. So I'm going to delete this one, move this out of the way, add the curb and gutter here. That's on the wrong side. I'm just Control Z-ing that, undoing that. Really trying to get this to appear on the right side. Let's see if I can change that to the right side. Here, I can. So I just did that by clicking on the object and changing the side in the parameters. I'm going to change that to be 1 foot now. I can select it. Also a width of 1 foot. And then I'm going to drag that daylight back to where it needs to be up here. Do I also want a sidewalk on that though? Yeah, let's go ahead and make a sidewalk on that too. Why not? So I'm going to actually move this back and then find my basic sidewalk, put it on with 6 foot width, and then drag this back. All right, so now that I've done that, I think I can go back and rebuild my surface a little bit, but I need to make sure I actually assign the right assemblies again. If you click on your surface model, your corridor surface, and open up your properties, the parameters tab now is much bigger because it's including all of the intersection sections in here as well. So a little bit difficult to figure out what is what. I recommend trying to put the intersection in your viewport so you can see what you're selecting. I keep clicking the wrong button, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. So I can just go through here until I see a section that I want to manipulate. So it looks like these are my curve returns. That's great. I can even expand the namings. It might help a little bit. This is Treehouse Drive, which I want. This is a secondary half section. I don't really think I need that, so I'm going to remove it. And then continuing on, this is the sidewalk road, which is good. This is the wrong section, right? I want this to be my right sidewalk. So I'm going to reassign that. And then it goes back to the sidewalk road, which is great. If I wanted to, I guess I could also make this part of the retaining wall. Maybe I can do that. Just see what that looks like. And now when I hit apply, everything will update and rebuild. It looks like something still might be out of date here, so I'm just gonna update the region and rebuild it. There is an option to update the region automatically, so anytime you make a change, it will rebuild the corridor. I found that to hurt me in the past. What ends up happening is you make a change, and then anytime you make any change, it will recompute the entire intersection. So it just like loses a lot of time, and it's possible it can break things, and you don't know what caused it to break because it updates so often. So I typically don't use that, but it is an option. All right, so it looks like everything has updated, except I got rid of some of the like intermediate sections, I think, so things aren't quite connected. So I'm just gonna drag my corridor to match my intersection and see if that works. So I dragged it there. I'm gonna update everything again. And that looks good to me. Another just quick tip, if you're trying to drag diamonds and things aren't quite matching up, go back to your corridor properties and actually manually just input the correct start and end station, and that will help a lot. I think the best way of doing that is to just copy and paste. Like, I want one to end here, which means the next one has to start there. So just like copy it, the values, and I'll probably demonstrate that for the next intersection. But for now, we can go back and view this in the model viewer and zoom in on this intersection. And you can see what it's looking like here. So know that because we're not dealing with like assembly transitions, you're gonna get sharp edges like this. I think I can actually delete this section. I think I missed one somewhere. Yeah, this little half right section. I'm just gonna remove this region. But before I remove it, I know I want Treehouse Drive to end here. So I'm gonna copy this value, put it in there, and then delete this one. So now Treehouse Drive is taking up the full length, that assembly that we made. Rebuild. And now if I go to model viewer, that should be fixed. Looks like it is. So again, the transitions won't be perfect because we're not dealing with those, but I hope you have been able to follow along this far and you're proud of, what you just made here. You modeled an entire intersection and the roadways, and we'll do the next intersection in the next video. Just goes to show you the power of some programs like Civil 3D, even if they can be a little bit difficult to use.